So we did some research. So this is towards the end of last year, just to check in to see where people are at. I know people have said, what can we expect in the future? And everywhere's different, and I don't know what your baseline was or where you're at now. But this is what people in Canterbury were saying, that 64% are still grieving for what we've lost. So this is 4 years after. 82% have a better sense of what's important to them. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's been some pretty fantastic stuff that's coming out in Canterbury. 1 in 4 feel overwhelmed and 65% feel tired. So that's kind of where people are at 4 years on. So a big part of our response for New Zealand Red Cross and many others, I sat as part of the Psychosocial Subcommittee, which I'm thinking is essentially this in Christchurch, right, this group. And a big part of our role was thinking, okay, we can't fix people's houses for them, we can't speed up this process, we can't wrangle with insurance companies, we can't really get to the stress, the source of a lot of the stress. So how do we support Cantabrians? And we started very much with our own volunteers and providing them with psychosocial recovery training so that they were able to work with communities and deliver some of the messages around the things that's very normal to be experiencing and the importance of leisure, all the things that Rob Gordon talks about. So we did a lot of that with our volunteers who were then doing outreach in the communities. And our next step was thinking, okay, we need to take this information directly to communities, because the other bit of research we did said, where's your best source of support coming from? In the last 2 years, where have you got your best source of support? And people said, yeah, GPs, really good, Red Cross, yeah, social services, absolutely. But we're everything overboard or whatever it was. It's not rocket science. Where'd you say most people get their best forms of support? Friends and family. So, but what we were also finding is that people in Canterbury, and early on, people were very, very open and supportive of each other. But over time, people were getting, they're dealing with their own stuff and then getting more tired and also a little bit more, insular in their thinking and very hard to take on board other people's stuff as well. People were saying we don't want to ask how people are anymore because we don't know what to do with what we get. So one of the things, so we started with Rob Gordon and we took, thanks to Australian Red Cross, who linked us up with Rob Gordon, we brought him out and did some community education sessions. And that then snowballed, as it does once people get to know Rob, and they sit there and go, and I see people in the audience go, oh, that's me. Like they start, really identifying the weight comes off their shoulders because they're realising that, actually they're not alone in what they're experiencing. And the next thing we were wondering as the Psychosocial Subcommittee was, okay, we're seeing that we do have some incidents of clinical level needs that we need to address, but we had services that were set up already to do that. They were working quite well in terms of our mental health services, help pick up and scale up to manage that. But what there was concern around is what about the general population? We're talking about ongoing chronic stress for the next how many years? What's that going to mean for parenting, for relationships, for work, for health, for well-being? And what are we doing to help support communities, support their own well-being, but also to help know what to do when they ask someone, are you okay? And so from that, there was a cross-organisational, so collaboration between multiple organisations that looked at a wellbeing campaign, and it's called the Allright Campaign. And the Allright Campaign started off, there was a lot of pressure to get it out now, we need this now, and they really quite rightfully pushed back and said, this is going to be a very long process, let's get this right. And it's quite, I think it's a pretty fantastic campaign. It's well received in Christchurch, but what's amazing about it isn't what came out in the end, which people love, it's the process, I think, that created the magic. So they started first by talking to people in Canterbury and said, what should this campaign look like? They didn't want it to be from any particular organisation pushing their agenda or raising their profile. They didn't want it to be from experts necessarily telling them how to be feeling. They wanted it to feel like it was designed for them and understood what they were going through. They wanted to use their words and terminology and feel like theirs. They wanted to be hopeful and vibrant and positive and not, reinforcing all that stuff that's going on in people's lives. And so they started with the first, and it is very colourful, and I'm sorry I haven't got any examples to show you. I can probably show you on my laptop later. So they started with the first lot, first stage was around it's all right to feel. So it's that whole normalising, that's why it's called the Allright Campaign, and it's got a question mark because it's checking in, are you all right? Is the person around you all right? So it's encouraging people to check on themselves and others. but it's all right to feel over it some days. It's all right to feel lucky how we've coped. It's all right to feel frustrated at times. So all time stamped, because it's not all right to feel over it for months on end without a break. So, and it's not all right to be experiencing what you're experiencing in terms of your house not being fixed, but the feelings and reactions that you're having, that's all right to be feeling. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that was the first phase. Second phase was around, so how can we promote strategies to support wellbeing? And they looked at the evidence base, and the New Economics Foundation, based in the UK, did a big meta-analysis of all the studies that they could find that showed what are the wellbeing supporting strategies that are effective. And they need to be things that are free and quick and available, readily available and accessible to anybody. And they came up with 5 things. One is to connect, so we know friends and family, really important to wellbeing. One is around give, so giving to others. One is around, so connect, give, be active. So one of these is surprising, right? Take notice, so that's sort of mindfulness type behaviour. What have I missed? Connect, take notice, give, keep learning, exercise.
Keep learning.
Be active. Is that 5? Have I done 5? Or I just repeated something twice? Keep learning, thank you. So yeah, without being able to see them, I struggle. So yeah, so there's five things. So they had some cartoons and some material around those 5 things, but they also had bus stops all over town that had, Mary from Rolleston says this is what makes her all right, and this family from whatever says this is what makes them all right. So again, very much coming from the population. Just to go back a step, the one that was around saying it's all right to be feeling used the very words that focus groups with the community came up that described how they were feeling. So when people said, I'm just feeling really over it right now, that's what the sort of words that were used in the campaign. So it didn't really feel like it was a local campaign. And there's been interest in it from various places overseas, but we're very much like, you can't just pick this up and take it somewhere. It's one of those, it's more the process, and otherwise it wouldn't work. So it has worked quite well in Christchurch, but you can't just transport it, but more the process. So it started with, the glued up posters that go to promote gigs and bands. So it started like that. And it was a splash of colour that happened in a city that is pretty grey, concrete, demolition type. It's full of roadworks. So it started that way. Then we had the bus shelters. It's been on the side of backs of buses. We've had postcards that people order themselves and pins. And on one side we've got 6 tips for recovery from Dr. Rob Gordon, and on the other side are the 5 ways to wellbeing. And some of that collateral has examples from Cantabrians. But it was designed very much to be used by locals and local organisations and made their own. So you can create your own poster. Here's as a team, Jolie says this was what, reading a book by the fire is what, well, it's probably not one of here. But you'd have various people had their suggestions as to what makes them all right, and you create a poster. This is our team one. They've used it in schools with the kids in the classrooms. They've had to think about what makes them all right, and they've made a poster. So they've created it so that, and they haven't been precious about it. They were worried about misuse of it or various other things, and then they said, look, this is about it being local, for locals by locals. So it's, they've created many different ways. And what else? We've got another image that has the picture of a roller coaster. That's again normalising the fact that you're going to be all over the shop, and that's okay. And that some days you'll have real highs, other days you'll have lows. Now the people around you might be in different places. So to keep checking in with yourself and to keep checking in with each other. For Christmas we had free compliments, which was essentially compliments of the season. And it had a poster that said, give away your, and it had tear off compliments at the bottom that you could tear off and give to someone. So you're warmer than a onesie, or you're cooler than a superhero, or and essentially it was just that message around the small things that you do. Like Canterbury's a pretty hard place to live in at the moment, but the little things that you do to support each other mean a lot. So those sort of very simple, again, returning some agency to how we can support each other. They had some video footage that showed, they called them Allright stunts. Outrageous bursts of ride. And so essentially everything from at the petrol station, where they would have someone pretending to be the radio playing over the speakers, and they'd be saying, the lady in the blue cardigan, white glasses on, filling up your car, and the person's going like this, and yeah, you've just won some free petrol. And essentially giving the message, and that was done with collaboration with various corporates who helped support it. This is the particular petrol station chain, and then very much promoting the message, we've done something outrageous to put a smile on your dial, but it just takes little things and to keep on doing that in your community and remembering that that's important. So we had limousines stop at bus stops and pick up people who are waiting for the bus and take them where they were going to go, thanks to a limousine company. Yeah, the symphony orchestra started playing randomly and someone's in the supermarket and everyone's in the aisle going, go. So just that kind of, it can be a bit of a trudge, I suppose. It can be hard, yeah. So that's sort of some of the public messaging stuff. The next step that we were thinking about, so Red Cross is one of the organisations that was involved in the working group. It was led by the Canterbury District Health Board and the Mental Health Foundation. So if anyone's interested, I can link you with the project lead for that particular campaign. If you look up Allright, and it's Allright, so Allright rather than the other, allright.org, I think it is. That doesn't work, put a .nz on the end, I'm pretty sure it's just .org. So the next thing that we were thinking about, and this is some of our woulda, coulda, shouldas, in terms of things that we wished we had done earlier. So, we started with our volunteers, providing psychosocial support, then went to providing some education in communities, and then the public messaging campaign. And then we thought, well, why aren't we taking, because you know how you've got that petal or propeller, depending on what you call it, the diagram that says about the different way, the recovery model. So you've got people at the centre, community at the centre, and then you've got your built environment, your economic environment, your social environment, and various different petals around it. So we know that, I know we stole that from you guys, so we've seen it. So in the middle you've got the people, and around the outside you've got the various different environments, and we're meant to work in an integrated way, right? And over time we found that was harder and harder to do, because as people working in recovery got more and more tired and more overwhelmed, that in many ways it's much more difficult to think in a broad sense, and so you become much more entrenched, surrounded by people who think like you, talk like you, work from the same perspective, have the same kind of moral review of the world. And so people became more and more entrenched in their area, the social area, the built environment, and so on. And so one of the things we would have done earlier next time is we rolled out some of that training around, probably with a bit of prompting from Australian Red Cross, around the psychosocial training to insurance companies, to rebuild companies, to, we're talking about secondary stressors, and we've worked a lot on how do we support communities with dealing with those secondary stressors. Well, actually, is there any way we can influence the source of that? Because many people working in those roles up in Canterbury too, they're pretty challenging roles to be turned up and to be, meeting people who are angry with you every day. And I think for them to just to understand the power they have in someone's recovery, for better or for worse, and how they can really work that for the better, and how they can be supported in the role that they're doing, which is challenging as well. So that kind of combination across. The other things we did to ensure that we were working across the petals, and this is something that occurred, my manager Elizabeth McNaughton she was quite strategic about it. She said, we're going to work across, we're going to find ways, this is our woulda, coulda, should have done it earlier, but we moved in with SCIRT, and SCIRT is the Strengthening Christchurch Infrastructure Rebuild team. So they're the people who are fixing our roads and our horizontal infrastructure. So we purposely upped sticks and moved in with them. And it wasn't necessarily a convenience thing, it was more about the fact that we had a lot to learn from each other. And wouldn't that have been amazing if we'd done that very early on? They're incredible with data, and we helped with some of the human side of things. We're trying to create what we call humanitarian engineers. Our own little social experiment going on. Because how much more powerful is it to have an engineer tell the human story and the people story than as a psychologist? It's not as expected, I suppose. So that's some of the things that we can kind of try and cross across the sector. So some of the messages we're hearing is, find some pretty unusual collaborations. Bring people to the table who are a bit different, or that you wouldn't usually bring because they're outside your comfort setting. The other thing we learned is that putting people at the centre of recovery is not as easy as we thought it would be. Some people actually did a really good job of it. Others have said it's been a real battle along the way, especially in the built environment, to remember that